Assalamu alaikum. Hello my dear students. How are you? Hope all of you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Alhamdulillah, I am also fine. Welcome to the online class. This is Mohshin Kabir, lecturer, Department of Biology, Milestone College, Uttara, Dhaka. Today, we are going to talk about some important topics from chapter 4, which is bioenergetics. Dear learners, do you know the existence of the living world mostly dependent on a biochemical process? Which process is it? Any idea? Yes, this process is photosynthesis. In your previous class, you have learned about the light-dependent phase of photosynthesis. So, in our today's class, we are going to talk about the light-independent phase of photosynthesis, factors affecting photosynthesis, and the importance of photosynthesis in the living world. After completing today's lesson, students will be able to explain the light-independent phase of photosynthesis. Students will be able to differentiate between C3 and C4 plant. Will be able to describe the factors of photosynthesis and also will be able to describe the significance or importance of photosynthesis in the living world. So, my dear students, let's move to the main discussion. In 1905, British physiologist Blackman divided the photosynthesis process into two phases. One is light dependent phase, another is light independent phase. Light is not directly required in light independent phase, but it can be carried out in presence of light. Light dependent phase is indirectly depend on light because ATP and NADPH2 is produced in light dependent phase, and this ATP and NADPH2 is called assimilation power or assimilatory power. With the help of ATP and NADPH2, carbon dioxide is reduced in light independent phase. So, carbon dioxide is reduced in light independent phase in three pathways. One is C3 cycle or Kelvin cycle. Next one is Hatch and Slack cycle or C4 cycle. And last one is CAM or crassulacean acid metabolism cycle. So, let's talk about the C3 and C4 cycle. Kelvin cycle or C3 cycle. Scientist Kelvin and his associates Benson and Besham together discovered this cycle. So, according to the name after the discoverer, this cycle is called Kelvin cycle. And the first stable compound of this cycle is 3 carbon-based phosphoglyceric acid. That is why this cycle is also known as C3 cycle. So, what is happening in the C3 cycle? Look at the board. Carbon dioxide enters into leaves through stomata and 1,5-ribulose 1,5-diphosphate or bisphosphate present in leaves, and carbon dioxide react with ribulose 1,5-diphosphate and form 6 carbon based a temporary compound which is called keto acid, and immediately this keto acid break down into 2 molecules of 3 carbon based 3 phosphoglyceric acid, and this compound is the first stable compound of this cycle. And through the various reactions, this 3 phosphoglyceric acid produce carbohydrate and ribulose 1,5-diphosphate. and this ribulose 1,5-diphosphate restore into leaves and again perform the C3 cycle. In most of the plants, C3 cycle is caused, and the plants which produce carbohydrate through these cycles are called C3 plant. Hatch and Slack cycle or C4 cycle. Two Australian scientists, MD Hatch and C.R. Slack, in 1966 discovered this cycle. So, after the name of the discoverer, this reduction pathway of carbon dioxide is called Hatch and Slack cycle. The first stable compound of this cycle is oxaloacetic acid, that is 4-carbon based oxaloacetic acid. That's why this cycle is also called C4 cycle. So what is happening here? Carbon dioxide from atmosphere, carbon dioxide enters into leaves through stomata, and phosphoenolpyruvic acid present into the cells of mesophyll tissue, and carbon dioxide reacts with phosphoenolpyruvic acid and form 4-carbon based oxaloacetic acid. So this is the first stable compound of this cycle. The 4-carbon based oxaloacetic acid converted into 4-carbon based malic acid. And from this malic acid, 1 molecule of 3-carbon based pyruvic acid is produced and 1 molecule of carbon dioxide is released here, and this carbon dioxide enters into C3 cycle. You know, in C4 plant, C3 cycle and C4 cycle carried out together, and this pyruvic acid, with the help of enzyme, this pyruvic acid converted into phosphoenolpyruvic acid and restore into leaves and again perform the C4 cycle. The plants which produce carbohydrate through C4 cycle are called C4 plants. Some examples of C4 plants are like sugarcane, maize and grass type plants like mutha grass, amaranthus, etc. I hope now you will be able to differentiate between C3 and C4 plants. Let's talk about the factors affecting photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is affected by some external and some internal factors. So let's talk about the factors. First one is external factors. The external factors are light, carbon dioxide, temperature, water, oxygen, mineral nutrient and chemical substances. And the internal factors are chlorophyll, age and number of leaves, amount of carbohydrate, potassium and enzymes. So at first, talk about the external factors. First one is light. You know, light is one of the most important factors in photosynthesis. Energy is required for the production of carbohydrate from carbon dioxide and water. The source of the energy is light. A very little portion of light, of sunlight, is used in photosynthesis process. Only 2% of sunlight is used in photosynthesis process. Light also helps in developing the chlorophyll. Photosynthesis process generally carried out well in red, blue, orange and purple spectrum. But the photosynthesis rate is low in yellow and green spectrum. too much light is harmful for the photosynthesis process because excess amount of light disintegrates the enzymes of leaves. So next one is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is one of the basic components of photosynthesis. The concentration of carbon dioxide in atmosphere 0.03%, but plant can use it up to 1%. So if the concentration of carbon dioxide is increased, then the rate of photosynthesis also be increased. But if the amount or concentration of carbon dioxide is decreased, then the rate of photosynthesis will be decreased. But if the concentration of carbon dioxide increased in an extreme level above 1%, then it will be harmful for photosynthesis because excess amount of carbon dioxide create an acidic condition in mesophyll tissue. That's why stomata get closed. As a result, photosynthesis rate become slow. Next one is temperature. Temperature is one of the important factors. The optimum temperature for the photosynthesis process is 22 to 35 degree centigrade. If the temperature below 22 degrees Celsius or above 35 degrees Celsius, then photosynthesis rate will be decreased. Next one is water. Hydrogen ion is needed for the reduction of carbon dioxide, and this hydrogen ion comes from water. So water is one of the basic components of photosynthesis. Next one is oxygen. If the rate of oxygen or concentration of oxygen decreases in atmosphere, then the rate of photosynthesis will be increased. Conversely, if the rate of or concentration of oxygen increased, the rate of photosynthesis will be decreased. But in oxygen-less environment, photosynthesis process completely stops. Next one is mineral nutrient. Nitrogen, magnesium is one of the important components of chlorophyll, and leaves cannot synthesize chlorophyll without iron. So the soil must have these minerals in proper amount or proper level for the better photosynthesis rate. And final one is chemical substances. If some poisonous substances like hydrogen sulfide, methane or chloroform, if present in environment, then the photosynthesis rate must be inhibited. So these are the external factors of photosynthesis. Now the internal factors. The internal factors are, first one is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll has a direct relation to the photosynthesis process. Only chlorophyll can absorb the solar energy. So it is most important for the photosynthesis process. Without chlorophyll, photosynthesis is impossible. But excess amount of chlorophyll is harmful for photosynthesis because excess amount of chlorophyll disintegrate the enzymes. Next one is age and number of leaves. The leaves too young or too old contains a very little amount of chlorophyll. So the leaves of middle-aged, the photosynthesis rate is highest in the leaves of middle-aged. Next one is amount of carbohydrates. The conduction of carbohydrate is inhibited due to the photosynthesis process. If the produced carbohydrates stored into leaves, then the rate of photosynthesis will be decreased. Next one is potassium. Potassium is one of the important factors. It is act as catalyst in photosynthesis process. And final one is enzymes. Several types of enzymes performs in photosynthesis process. So my dear students, these are the factors of photosynthesis process, external factors and internal factors. Now, the importance of photosynthesis in the living world. You know, photosynthesis is the most important biochemical process in the living world. The existence of the living world mostly dependent on this biochemical process. So, the importance of photosynthesis cannot be expressed in few sentences. Let's talk about some key points about the importance of photosynthesis. First one is produce plant food. You know, only green plant produce its own food through the photosynthesis reaction. Green plant absorb the solar energy and convert the solar energy into chemical energy, and the chemical energy is stored into carbohydrate foods. That's why green plants are called autotrophic. Next one is produce animal food. The food we eat like bread, rice, fishes, fruits, all the food materials directly or indirectly derived from plants. So animal food are completely dependent on photosynthesis reaction. Next one is produce oxygen. Through the photosynthesis reaction, green plant produce carbohydrate as well as oxygen as byproduct. This oxygen is very much important for the cellular respiration for all the living beings. Next one is maintain the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide. You know, respiration is a physiological process that is take place in all the living organisms and round the clock. So, and through the respiration process, carbon dioxide is released in atmosphere, and in photosynthesis reaction, this carbon dioxide is taken for the reaction and oxygen is released through the photosynthesis reaction. That's why the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen is maintaining through the photosynthesis reaction. Next one is in the progress of human civilization. You know, the progress of human civilization is completely or directly or indirectly dependent on photosynthesis process. Food materials, clothes, medicines and the fuels, all the things are directly or indirectly produced from the plants. So, my dear students, I hope all of you realize the importance or significance of the photosynthesis process in the living world. So, my dear students, some homework for you from today's discussion. Write down the differences between C3 and C4 plant and submit the homework to your respective SW group or to your respective subject teacher. I hope all the topics that I discussed in our today's class, all of you understood. So that's all for today. Yet, if you have any questions regarding today's topics, please ask your respective subject teacher. Thank you for being with me. Stay home and stay safe. Allah Hafiz.